Good morning, America. It's Monday morning here in the District of Columbia. I'm Rick McCauley.
And I'm Cassie Wyszynski. This is the broadcast of TAH, here to bring you your morning news.
Today we will have some very interesting topics, and remember, you heard it here first.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have the French Revolution and the Alien and Sedition Acts.
Before we get to those, let's briefly summarize what has happened recently.
How about our new government, Rick?
Yes, we have two different political parties, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans.
Jefferson started the Democratic Republicans, which is in favor for the average person and that they get a say. And Hamilton started the Federalists, which is a more elite group of people that is in the government.
Yes, which brings us to another point. The so-called Whiskey Rebellion. Apparently this event was a tax on the farmers that made the whiskey. The farmers formed a rebellion and attacked tax collectors that came to collect their taxes.
More on the story as it develops.
Isn't it strange that just after the French helped us gain our independence, they decided to try and take the same step that we did and make their own new government?
Good question, Rick. Good question. And that brings us to our most important breaking news of today. What does the French expect from us, and how do we feel about it?
Right you are, Cassie. Right you are. And here to elaborate more on this topic, Mr. John Adams.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here today. You have no idea how I've been feeling about this situation.
Would you mind voicing your opinion on this subject, kind sir?
I'd be happy to. The main thing that's been getting to me is that I'm being criticized for everything. People are saying that America should have picked the side of French, and others saying that we should have taken the side of British. I feel it necessary for America to stay neutral, which is the policy of neutrality, a nation that does not participate in war between other nations. This is because we have just set up a new government, and we do not have the fundings to pay for another war if things get out of control.
Yes, we have heard that you wanted to stay neutral, but what about our current trade routes? Aren't the French and British both destroying our trade ships? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, the French and British are seizing our ships because we have not chosen side. This is making it extremely hard for us to trade. My thoughts about the naval war are that we as a country are trying to do what's best for a whole, and not concerned of other nations.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us, John, but that's all the time we have for you today.
Thanks for having me to share my thoughts. Hopes to see you soon.
Stop it. Wars are starting to have a severe impact to our trade. To try to fix our problems with the French, we sent 3 men to try to talk to the French. But we were stopped by 3 low-level officials to bribe us for $250,000 to speak with the French leaders. This is also known as the XYZ affairs.
The French were doing all of this because they wanted a government just like ours, and they wanted us to help just like they helped us gain our government. This war lasted for about 10 years. It became more violent as it progressed. The war ended in 1799, a year before the 19th century started. Our first intention toward the war was to stay neutral, and that's how we stayed throughout the whole war.
And now a quote from Charles Caleb Colton. The consequences of things are not always proportionate to the apparent magnitude of those events that have produced them. Thus the American Revolution, from which little was expected, produced much, but the French Revolution, from which much was expected, produced little. Now on to our other topic of the day, the Alien Sedition Acts, which were a series of laws which sought to restrict the public activities of political radicals who sympathized with the French Revolution and criticized Adams' Federalist policies. These were created from John Adams as a result of being criticized from the French Revolution.
The first of these laws was the Naturalization Acts. The Neutralization Acts, passed by Congress on June 18th. This act required the aliens be residents for 14 years instead of 5 before they became eligible for U.S. citizenship. The second act was the Alien Act on June 25th, authorizing the President to deport aliens dangerous to the peace and safety of the United States during peacetime. The third act was the Alien Enemies Act, was enacted by Congress on July 6th. This act allowed the wartime arrest, imprisonment, and deportation of any alien subject to any enemy power. The fourth act was the Sedition Act, passed on July 14th, that declared treasonable activity, including the publication of any false, scandalous, or malicious writing, was a higher misdemeanor, punishable by a fine and imprisonment.
How does this affect us, you ask? The First Amendment is about freedom of speech and how everyone has those rights if they are a citizen of the United States. Unfortunately, the Alien and Sedition Acts goes against those rights. It makes it a lot harder for immigrants to become citizens, and it gives the President the power to deport or jail any alien that is unwanted. Also allows jail time or fines to anyone trying to go against the government. Federalists supported the new acts, which only makes sense because Democratic Republicans are the only ones who say everyone is equal and has a voice.
Virginia and Kentucky were two states that did not put the Alien and Sedition Acts into play because they thought that they were unconstitutional, which is nullification, the failure or refusal of a U.S. state to aid in enforcement of federal laws within its limits on constitutional grounds. Both Thomas Jefferson and James Madison saw the Alien and Sedition Acts as a serious misuse of power of part of the federal government.
French Revolution made people criticize John Adams, which made him create the Alien and Sedition Acts, which upset some people because they did not follow the First Amendment, which then caused some states to nullify the Alien and Sedition Acts. This means for America that everything has its consequences, and if people or states don't agree, they can choose not to do so.
Well, that's all we have for today. Tune in tomorrow for more breaking news. This is TAAH, District of Columbia, saying goodbye to their viewers.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles.